You have qualities only few can admire because most don't possess. You have strength only few can understand because most have never experienced. So don't give in. Don't settle. Don't lower your expectations to fit into the world. You were born to stand out. You were born to lead. Lead the pack.
Joining in, see the viewers is starting to slowly. You're already getting Kubota comments.
Yeah, I can't see him.
Yeah, Kubota. Doug Rand, you know Doug Rand? I don't know Doug. Doug said, "Hey, it's Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Kubota tractor."
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a misspelling or if that's a joke, but it's funny, nonetheless. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, it's kind of cool, man, because you kind of came out of nowhere and had some I guess some people knew your name. I recognized your name from, I guess, the ASA circuit.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, but you don't shoot a lot of indoor, do you?
No, man, this is my first year really shooting any indoor. I mean,
Yeah.
I've shot a ton this year indoor, but yeah, typically I just like 3D.
Yeah, gotcha. Did you register for or shoot the USA Archery Indoor Nationals by chance?
No, I looked it up. It looked like the closest one was like 7 or 8 hours away. So, are you talking about the one coming up that they have like a shoot down thing in Kentucky?
Yes, sort of. USA Archery Nationals is all over the country in multiple places. So
Okay.
it's essentially the same format as Vegas as far as scoring, 60 arrows, blah, 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 blah. But it's done in like remote areas. Like our local one is Lancaster Archery Supply. They host theirs there. We often go down to Virginia and shoot, which is where we're going next weekend. We're shooting indoor nationals down there. So
Okay.
that's at I can't remember the facility. It used to be hosted, like when I was a kid shooting JOAD, we shot at James Madison University, but then 10 years ago or whatever, when things got crazy at Penn State and they had all of those child endangerment things going on. There's the ghost of the Barebow project opening.
Yeah.
That being my lab. She's got to hang out with me. She'll get up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure she does it every episode. But anyways, and so they moved it to this new facility or whatever, because they're not allowed to have that stuff on campus anymore. But what state are you in?
Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah. I don't know where the southernmost one would be, but I
think it's College Station is what I looked up. If that's the same one, I'm sure it probably is.
This is probably the last weekend. This weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it had like a 7 o'clock line or 8 o'clock line or something in the AM on a Thursday or on a Friday or something. Kind of a weird time, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-day shoot. You shoot twice, so but what they do is they do like the JOAD Nationals, so that 21 and under JOAD team, they do that like usually on a Friday. And that's like one single 60 arrow round for the kids and the under 21 crowd, and then the actual the national tournament, the 2-day shoot for all ages, is usually Friday and Saturday or Saturday, Sunday. But yeah, maybe next year. Maybe.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm going to Louisville, but
okay, I was just gonna ask you. You going to? Okay, good.
Yeah, I'll go to that. Man, that ever since Lancaster thing, the indoor thing kind of got me a little hooked now.
Oh yeah,
it's a totally different shoot.
You're riding the wave, man. You might as well. I mean, you did well. You won Lancaster. You, went to Vegas, performed well there, and now there's no reason not to, if you can manage it with work and family and finance. Yeah. There's no reason not to go and run the mall. I mean, that's what John Dillinger did. I want to say 20. It was the year I hit the podium. I think it was 2021. Or 2020. I don't remember which one it was, or if that one was canceled or not. John Dillinger won the classic. No, it was 2020. John Dillinger won the classic. He did not win nationals, but he won US Open and he won Vegas, all in, so yeah. Ride that wave, my friend. Ride that.
Yeah, well, it's there for sure.
Well, we got some people on, so I guess we'll get started here and actually talk about you, Mr. Matt Hudson, 2023 Lancaster Archery Classic Champion. It's got a nice ring to it, my friend.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool for sure.
It is cool. It's friggin' really cool. It was fun watching you shoot. It was even more fun watching John Wirt try to like pull anything and everything out of you, and you were just not budging. But I think you were in a mindset and you didn't want to get outside of that mindset. That's what it kind of looked like. But
yeah, no, I felt bad afterwards. I was like, man, I just blew him off. But you know, it is what it is. I was pretty well focused on what I was trying to do.
we could tell. We could definitely
Yeah.
tell. And I think that John knew exactly what was going on. But I'm gonna pull some of that stuff out of you tonight, whether you like it or not. So we're gonna get started here. So give us the details. Like I said, I want to know like where you're from, where you shoot, you know, and you know, just that general info. Let's get started with that.
Okay, so I live about an hour south of Tulsa. I don't really have just a specific club or anything like that that I really belong to. I do Tulsa Archery Club for the most part. It's about an hour and 45, or probably about an hour and 30 minutes north of me. I shoot there every Tuesday now. And as far as archery goes, though, I've actually been shooting a bow, like a wood bow, for since I was probably about 20. Okay. So I'm not brand new to archery, or anything, but definitely a different kind of archery. I gapped, for a long time. I wasn't really ever really any good at it, but I just it was just for hunting, really. But man, probably 4 years ago, I missed a ton of deer and I got super frustrated, bought a compound, killed like 5 deer really quick. And so I sold the compound, got another wood bow, and still was pretty frustrated. So I found a guy here local that was actually a good friend of mine that got me into hunting. His stepdad was an awesome shot. I mean, just really, really good with a longbow. So I ended up talking to him a little bit, and he helped me a ton. And but it was funny because whenever I called him and got a hold of him, he was actually shooting like a G1, 25-inch riser, and I was like, that's super weird. I just hadn't really ever seen anything like it before. Yeah. And this has been about 2.5 years ago. Really. And so anyway, I kept the longbow route for a while, and yeah, I got pretty good at a longbow really quick. And probably 3 to 4 months into that, I seen what he was doing with one of those bows. So I ended up playing with it a little bit, and it was kind of all downhill from there. I just kind of really liked it, and then we found out about string walking, me and him both, I think at the same time. And because my point on was like 35 yards, super manageable, and then the reason that I have that really low anchor is because I never got comfortable, like whenever I was at full draw, because I used to anchor like eye tooth. Yeah. And so I was never really comfortable. And really what kind of keyed me off to that lower anchor was I was running through YouTube, and I think a Jake Kaminsky video popped up. Went through all that, and he said, it was something about why he wouldn't change his anchor, blah, blah, blah. And so I tried it, and I was like, man, and this was actually, I shot Foley last year, the first tournament with that high anchor, and I just was not comfortable. I was really not happy. So I went home, found the video, and immediately just changed. I was like, I'm just going to go with it. It just feels better. So I did, and it honestly changed everything. Like I went from a high 80s, 180s shooter, like on 3D. So, even being 200 there, a high 80s, which is good, which is really good, to a mid 90s, shooting even, quite a few times, especially at home, shooting even a lot. And man, it just got a lot easier, so that holding position meant a lot.
What's your setup look like poundage wise and arrow length and stuff like that?
So I'm shooting those PS23s in a full length 170 up front. Okay. Poundage wise on my bow is right at about 37.5 on the fingers.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I'm drawing
So,
about 30. I
yeah.
really don't even know how to measure that correctly.
Yeah. Are you going to shoot like any field or the 50-meter game at all this year?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
plan
So
to. I
that's
shot a little bit of it in the
yeah.
summertime just here at home.
Yeah. You're
And
gonna
then,
see you'll see that's where you'll see changes in when you're shooting that shorter arrow, and you're gonna have to crawl up a little bit and get closer to the nock for that 50-meter. You can set it up so that you have some crawl, but you have to find that happy place between point on at 50, because you definitely need to be point on. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
my
yeah,
point
no,
on right now.
it's all relative to like how people shoot, what they're used to, and what will work. But now I'm curious, when you shot longbow or just a wood bow with
Mainly
a
longbow. Yeah.
what was your anchor then?
Eye tooth,
Eye tooth.
like
Okay.
index on the eye tooth. Yeah.
Upper, lower,
So pretty high.
upper, lower,
Upper. Yes.
upper. Okay. So you've shot that, and that you probably had no choice but to do that. Yes, that's where you had to anchor to get your point on. Plus shooting 3D, you're not shooting super far distances, so it's not,
Yeah.
it's manageable. Are you shooting the PS23s for 3D also, or are you shooting a little bit of a faster arrow?
I don't really know yet, to be honest. So I haven't even played with anything past 20
Mm,
at all, or under 20. So I got some more arrows coming. I'm going to play with.
mhm,
So I'm going to kind of see. I'm going to see where I end up. But I like the idea of shooting them for 3D.
mhm.
I really don't think they're going to help out as much. But you know, everybody's got their ideas behind it for sure.
I mean, I think you're right. It just depends on what are you comfortable with? What do you have confidence in? It's just like the anchor thing. I have someone that I'm coaching in across the pond in Denmark, and he started with the low anchor, but he was constantly smacking his nose, and didn't had tons of pressure on that bottom finger. And I said to him, I was like, there's a reason that most of us are shooting somewhere lower eye tooth, try to be upper eye tooth, corner of the mouth, something like that. It brings that string further out in your face, and then like he's like, oh, it feels so weird. It feels so weird. And then like one day, and he kept like floating back and forth between the two. And then one day, finally, like, you know what, that's it, sticking to it. And then his scores went
Yeah.
because he didn't have to worry about hitting his nose. He wasn't, brings that anchor further out to the outside of the cheek, went with a deeper hook. He wasn't shooting a shallow hook, and all these things changed, and all of a sudden, like, got more comfortable full draw, so you have to do what works best for you. And if that anchor
Yeah.
works for you, 100% run with it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to change. Don't fix it if it
Yeah.
ain't broke, and it's
There are
good.
definitely some trade-offs for
Oh,
sure.
100%. Yeah. But like, you're obviously making it work, and you are comfortable. Like, you look super, super, super comfortable, even during qualifying, like, and the head-to-heads. Like, you can see, like, you're confident the way you shoot. And I think it's a testament to what we preach all the time for people who are listening, or people are like, oh, I want to know Matt's story. Whatever you do that you can make work, stick with it. Right.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so you said you started like, how old were you when you first picked up a bow?
So I was right at about 20.
Okay.
I'm
I was gonna
32
say,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a young pup yet. Well,
Yeah.
good for you. You got a long ways to go, my friend. Do you have any kids or anything? They shoot?
Yeah. Yeah. I got a daughter. She's 8, but she shoots a little bit just playing around, but she's not really got into it yet.
Yeah. Um,
Hopefully so. We'll see.
do you feel like longbow and barebow, like NFAA, you gonna stick with the barebow, or do you still play around with longbow too?
So that's the trade-off for me was the lower anchor being comfortable. I refused to make my nose bleed anymore. I
Mm,
even made it bleed up high, and it was
yeah.
just, I hated it. So, because I was always bracing for impact some way or another, so I caught myself on camera. I would close my eyes and I
Yeah,
would
there's
shoot,
people that do that. Yeah, yeah.
and it was super weird. But the trade-off is now that I don't want to go back to that because of I would not have a manageable gap at what I have now at my anchor now. at all. It would be my point on right now is like 65 yards.
Yeah.
So it's pretty huge. And that's with a 430 grain arrow. So wouldn't work with a longbow, even if I shot 1,000 grain setup, but, yeah, I won't play with the longbow really anytime soon at all.
Yeah.
I love shooting them, but and I've still got them all, but it's just, this is where I'm at for now, for sure.
Seems like there's definitely a common theme of shooters who come into the sport shooting a wood bow, whether it's a Black Widow or a longbow, that get really good with it. And some people naturally find a good full draw position and a good anchor, it probably has some athletic prowess to it. Like if you're a physically able person, you have that inquisitive mindset where like, how do I do this better? How do I do this better? Like that's all you need, and those people that come into it shooting a wood bow and they pick up a barebow rig and then all of a sudden like, holy shit, this is so easy compared to shooting a longbow, and it's no surprise. Like, and I know like Tim Johnson, I know he was on the US 3D team shooting longbow. A guy could shoot anything. Like, Demers is the same way. Could shoot anything. And these guys pick up a barebow rig. It's no surprise to see them shoot the way they do. And the same goes for you. But you're amongst new territory now. There's guys that eat, breathe, and sleep target archery, and you're gonna have a learning curve going into some of these other games. But I'm sure you'll be fine. 100% will be fine. It's exciting though to have another person that's doing so well with it. I think it's just going to show other people who are doing the sport like, hey, I can do this too and be competitive. And the tournaments are fun, which, by the way, listen,
super fun.
Make sure Target Nationals, you get into the team competitions. All right. Target Nationals are in Pennsylvania this year, right? Malvern, PA, everyone that's listening and watching that shoots, that wants to shoot Target Nationals, you have to do the team competitions. All right. They're a freaking blast. It's the best part of the entire weekend. There's like a co-ed team, and then there's a 3-person male female team. Like I shot last year, I shot with 2 local guys from where I'm at, Rob Yanni and Mike Nyer. And then year before that, I shot with Matt Zernzak and Eric Yost. Oh my gosh, it's a blast every time. Yeah. So make sure you get into that. If you have any questions, let me know. But so I guess I mean we steamrolled through what we wanted to talk about for the most part, with the exception of one thing. Let's talk about the Classic and let's start with how in the world did you prepare for the Classic, with it being your first, I don't know if it was your first indoor ever, or at least your first big indoor ever. Talk about when did it start and what did it look like?
Okay, so it's not my first indoor ever. I've shot some little local stuff here, but nobody in my division, I guess, but sure. So probably back in August, I talked to Mike Ellis quite a bit. I think he was number 8 on there. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him quite a bit because, we both shot all the ASAs. And for whatever reason, we just decided that Lancaster looked fun. So we should try, to see how a 3D shooter, that's all we've ever shot would do, and it was kind of just because we wanted to see where we stood, really, because all the best ones are there for sure. So, like prep there. So it started really there. I went on an elk hunt in September, and as soon as that was over, I was pretty much not into hunting at all. I went straight to shooting, and Mike actually came to Oklahoma to hunt up here, and I just wasn't mentally in it. I kept wanting to shoot my bow the whole time, so I was rushing him out. But so I shoot for about an hour and a half every morning at work. So my office butts up to
you don't work at Kubota, do you?
Yeah, I work at a Kubota dealership. Yeah.
You do? For real?
Yeah, really. Yeah, for sure.
That's so funny. All right. It all makes sense. It's all starting to make sense. That's cool. You get to shoot at work.
Yeah. And the shirts are free is why I wear them.
So, hell yeah, man. Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. All right. So you shoot an hour and a half at work every day.
Mm-hmm. Every morning.
I hope people take notes. All right. Take freaking notes. All right, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so the whole anybody can do it thing, I 100% believe, because it just depends on what you put into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, anyway, it's not really such an athletic thing that not everybody can do it. Some people may be just mediocre at it, but decent, competitive anyway. But so that was my prep basically. That, and I would go Tuesday nights to my club up there in Tulsa, and we would just shoot like, I don't even know what they call it, and I think it's like $5, and they put you with a compounder, and you do something weird. And I don't even know if I ever won, because it took
Something
like
weird.
4 hours to do it, and I just hurried up home, and I just left. It was $5,
Yeah.
and it put a little bit of what I thought was pressure on me, because I was shooting with a compound dude, and
Sure.
oddly enough, that I'm sure the scores weren't crazy different. We've got a couple really good shooters, but for the most part, they were like young bow hunters, so fairly comparable, I think. But that was pretty much the prep, that. And then
Yeah.
at home, I would do, I would draw in my house in here, with an arrow and a target, but I wouldn't really shoot a whole lot. So I would just do draw holds. I didn't want to get wore out, because I wasn't really sure how many arrows to be I'd be shooting.
Yeah.
So I definitely, and I really ramped it up, like off of one of your podcasts. I'd heard Dimmer talking about what he did in prep before. I think it was like last year,
Mm-hmm.
and he shot like a ton,
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. So I did that, and it was probably just draw holds was probably several hundred of the evening. It was a lot. I mean, it was a lot of time for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it isn't like I accidentally shot okay. I
Oh
mean, I put a
no.
ton of
There's no
work.
way.
You know
No
what I
way
mean?
you're shooting
Yeah.
that consistent, that relatively calm. I mean, I'm sure on the inside you were still amped up, but like you did, you can tell that you were prepared. You were prepared for, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And if you shot ASA, and the ASA gets you, I mean, despite that you don't have the crowd and stuff, you're still shooting like you're in the mix on it's a big stage. It's 3D, but it's a
Sure.
big stage. It's
Yeah.
not televised. So, it doesn't have the coverage like the Barebow thing at Lancaster. Let's face it, Barebow is what makes Lancaster Archery Classic. You can say what you want about the others, and like my friend Paige Pierce won. I'm happy for her and all the other pros and whatnot. But Barebow is what makes the classic. It's
Yeah.
everybody knows it, so having being so coming in confident and shooting the way you did, it shows that again, you said it, anyone can do it, but they got to pursue it and
Yeah,
be
for
prepared
sure.
to make the sacrifices and put in the work.
Yeah.
What, an hour and a half at work every single day of shooting, that's a sacrifice.
Sure. Yeah. It's just getting
That's
up early though,
Mhm.
for the most part. That's all it is. It's
Yeah.
time you would have wasted anyway, is the way I looked at it anyway.
Yeah. You definitely have the mindset. I don't, like, as long as you can keep shooting archery the way your mindset is, just from the little bit we talked before and what I've seen, like, you got a long ways to go, my guy. You'll be around for a while. You just got to keep putting in that work for sure.
Yeah.
And I think, as you learn about tuning and other stuff, and you get into these other games, like field archery is just it teaches you so much about yourself and about, like, when you're like, when you're stuck on that lower anchor and you're like, oh man, but I need to hit an 80-yard target. What am I going to do? And you figure out all those idiosyncrasies of that
Oh
game.
yeah.
And it teaches you then about the other games and what you got to do and stuff like that. So you go into shooting daily. You're doing draw holds at home. I'm glad you said that, because that's an item that people don't use nearly enough, and they should. You know, what were some things that you've overcome through archery, or maybe you learned about yourself getting ready for the classic, things like that you addressed, or things that maybe you struggled with beforehand and you were able to keep everything under control at the classic? Was there anything, or were you just shooting pretty consistent and you were happy?
No, so really my hook changed
Okay.
probably back in mid-December. I used to hook like in the crease on each finger,
Okay.
on my index and middle finger. I hooked there, because when I switched over to that lower anchor, I could feel my lower jawbone here, and I don't have a really good reference there, so it's probably not the best anchor. But anyway, and I had to make sure my mouth was shut
Yep.
all the time, because if it was open at all, I would have huge highs and lows.
Yep.
Yeah. So having my mouth shut all the time doing that. And then, but what the shallow anchor did was it kind of made my hand, for whatever reason, like two tendons were, against each other, and it would pop, and it was just kind of weird, and it didn't really hurt, but it just kind of, it was just something different. So I went to a little deeper hook and got into an even more comfortable hold. But the trade-off there is getting off the string.
Yeah, but you can do it. It's just training.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly just probably 9 months ago learned what being in my back really was, because I thought I was, like, for years, and I was not at all. I was really just only in my traps. I shot really high and scrunched up, and it worked, but my draw length was like 1.25 inches less than it should have been. It's kind of weird, and I just accidentally, to not know what it feels like, you just have no idea. So, and then a guy at our club kind of explained it to me a little bit, and he was a compound guy, and then it was just a little different, and so, and I kind of figured that out. So, or what I still think is right. And it worked a lot better, so once I got to full draw, I can sit there all day.
Yeah.
That way. I have no issue holding that for as long as I need to.
Especially with a deeper hook. It's crazy how, and it goes against like common recurve knowledge, especially on the Olympic side of things, because they're like, even Coach Lee teaches not to be that deep, but they shoot high 40s, 50 pounds on the fingers, and you can cause nerve damage within the fingers from that if you are in that area. So they teach a little bit of a shallower hook, out here, but again, that puts the string closer to your nose and all this other stuff. And when you get into a real good deep hook and you're not shooting like a super, super, super duper amount of weight, it's incredible how controlled you are at full draw. Like, I mean, and you don't have, I say super, I take that back. I'm not talking like I'm not talking like back here. I'm talking, but I mean, you could actually see on my finger, you can't because of the light. Like you can see there's a what you call it. I have like a callus right behind the crease, and you can train it a lot. What happens, Matt, is a lot of people go and they're like, they shoot a certain way and they're like, this is how I shoot. And then they're afraid to make that change. You were forced to make the change, and it ended up being a change for the better. I imagine you probably won't go back at this point. But, so that's cool. So you made that change only in December. So, a month or more beforehand. And obviously it worked. For sure.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. I was shooting, my practice scores were probably in the lower 70s before, and they weren't super and so I found out that it's weird how people keep score, apparently. These are just normal 10 scores, not with X's being 11s.
Yeah.
So,
that's what most people do. Most people.
Okay.
It's just It's just the classic. Yeah.
Okay. So, I would shoot low 70s, and then I played with that deeper hook, and, I went up to like high 70s, and it was pretty quick, within like two games. And then I went into the lower 80s, and I shot a couple of super high scores, and I was like, well, I'm just changing. That's just it scores better, so I'm just going to change it. So just like I added a weight to my bow 3 days before we went, because I actually scored a little better with it. Yeah. And that may have changed when I got there, but it didn't. So
yeah,
there's got to be a reason to change for sure, but or at least to try things. But I think that's why I cut the learning curve quickly with the barebow thing, was just because I was willing to change to whatever it took. You know what I mean? Like, I know there's a ton of people here around that they're only going to shoot the way they shoot, and that's just the way it is, a wood bow's the only way to go or not, you know, whatever. And I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. But I'm going to shoot whatever scores the best. And because if you're scoring better, you're happier anyway. You know what I mean? So if you're not hitting what you want to hit, it's just not as fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's like an animal. It's not fun losing arrows. I've done a ton of that before, you know, a ton of deer I've lost arrows on.
So are you still going to shoot all the ASAs this year?
I'm not going to shoot all of them. No, that was a financial blow last year. I mean, that was huge. But you know, because I live 12 hours from any shoot, pretty much,
Gotcha.
almost, except for Illinois and Louisiana. But I'm going to go shoot Foley. I'll probably shoot Kentucky and Illinois. Other than that, I don't think I'm going to go to the rest of them. I got one here every week, so I can hit all the local stuff. But there's nobody in my class, so I shoot with the young bow hunter compound fellows.
Got you. Which
is still fun, really, because some of them were back and forth, you know, on a lot of them, and it makes it fun.
Yeah, that's good. So I guess you made these changes. What was your first thoughts like when you walked into the building and you saw the facility? You know, what did you think? Like, holy shit, what did I get myself into? Or, you know, and then just right to the practice range, or like how did, coming from first time there, seeing all these people, because the facility is freaking massive.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So like, just describe that feeling of coming into the building, and where did you put your brain right off the bat? Like what were you thinking?
I really, honestly, I know y'all just did one over this because I talked to Ryan quite a bit, but expectations, you know, and I literally went in with zero. I just wanted to shoot and have fun. Yeah. And, you know, and me and Mike had talked about that beforehand, but when we got there, it's definitely a little intimidating, you know, especially when you I've never seen that amount of barebows in my life.
Yeah.
You know, when I got in there, I was like, holy crap. I couldn't believe that there's 50 of them right here and there's 100 of them over there. You know, it was just, that was crazy to me. And then obviously later you get to see all the guys that you see on, you know, that you've seen on Lancaster before, like Michael Fisher, you know, Dimmer, all them guys, you know, Ryan Davis, he's an awesome shot too, you know, and any of them. So you get to see all those guys. And so it's a little intimidating, you know, but the thing is it just didn't really matter to me because I just wanted to go in, and honestly, all I wanted to do was shoot. If I could shoot a 70, like per round or per game, I was going to be super happy, you know. And I don't think I really didn't shoot great in the qualification things, but I didn't shoot terrible either. I don't even remember what my score was. I think I had like a 76 or 8 or something, and then like a 60 something. I'm not sure, but that's what I wanted to do, and I pretty much accomplished that as an average. So I was already pretty happy, you know. And when it went to when we got on, I know I'm going super fast here.
No, you're fine.
But when we got to the head-to-head stuff, I was still not sure how all that stuff worked. So I had people. Robbie helped me a lot, actually. He was kind of leading me around. Robbie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like, man, I don't even who do I shoot against, or you know. And honestly, of course, the dude that I was supposed to shoot against first, he wasn't there. I can't remember his name. Alex something. I'm not sure.
Melnick. Yeah, Alex Melnick.
Okay, yeah. So
he had to go. He had to go home.
Okay, so right off the bat, I was like, man, this is gonna suck. If I do very well, people are gonna think I got to buy and blah blah blah, this and that. You know what I mean? That's where my mind went to that. I was like, I want to earn where I get for sure. And anyway, and I shot pretty good. I don't remember my score. I think it was like a 114 or 15 or something like that on the first head-to-head. And then the funny thing is, Alex guy was gone, so Robbie was right next to him. Well, he's left-handed, and we were just looking at each other the whole time. I had no idea that I was going to end up shooting against him. Yeah. You know, and I looked at his target a couple times, and it looked good. You know, I mean, so I knew he was a shooter anyway. So it come down to me and him at the end, and I had no idea whoever won that was going to be top 8. And Dwayne came over there.
That's a good thing when you look back. Yeah, that's a good thing.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And Dwayne came over there right before I was about to shoot against Robbie, and he was like, "Well, whoever wins out of this is going to be on the big stage." I was like, "Okay, well, no pressure now. I wish you would have
Yeah.
waited, but
Yeah. Right.
anyway, I done okay. I done okay for sure. I was happy with it, and he shot solid too, and I think we were just a point behind. But it was definitely the most at that point. Honestly, I felt more pressure at that right there, at the head to head, than I did
Sure.
at any other part.
Well, yeah. I
Even
mean,
even towards the end.
a lot. I have a lot of friends who have been, and parents of like youth shooters too, that I've talked to that have been in the top 8 and have shot on this, or top 4 in some cases, on the stage. And a lot of times, they will all say that. I know Paige and I have talked about that, and Paige said the same thing. Like, it's once you've made it, whatever happens after that is gravy.
Yeah,
It's no longer, and that's any head to head, any, like, you make it to a medal match of any kind, sure, you want to win, of course you want to win, but like, the hard part's kind of over. Now you just have to shoot, doing the head to heads and making your way through fields and doing all of that stuff. Like, that's the hard part. That's the stressful part, because it's like you shoot and then it's the next person, and anybody can
yeah,
hit a hot streak at any time. Like, we always say, like head to heads are shit shows, because like anything can happen. You don't know. There's no guarantee that somebody, I mean, Robbie 2 years in a row, for example, this year he was the number 1 qualifier. Robbie was like shooting
yeah. He
absolute
shot
fire.
very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Last year he lost to Dwayne. I think it was on the last end, or maybe even the last arrow, or no, I don't know if it was the last arrow, but it was like, I think it was the last end. But he was shooting amazing then. Like, he's just missed 2 years in a row, and he's young. He's super young. So like, he's kids like him that are coming through. I call him a kid. He's not a kid. We just
yeah,
make fun. He's like the annoying little
yeah,
brother that we all love. But he's gonna, you see those people like Robbie who are just putting so much time and effort into it. He deserves everything that he gets, because he works his ass off. You did the same to get to where you were at for this weekend. And that's why, like, I'm so happy for you, because when someone puts in that much work, and then, they kind of show up out of nowhere and able to keep it all together, and you get back there and you're shooting in the practice bills under the lights, and, like, you were the same even keel, same demeanor the entire weekend. And that's key, and that could be a natural thing. It seems like it might be for you. Seem like you're kind of an even keel guy, but it's
only
just
on the outside.
only on the outside. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. I'm sure, but I mean, if you can suppress that, and keep it chill, some people that works for them, for some
yeah,
people. Plus, I think you said you were shooting against compound a lot in your training. That's a role. Like, that plays a role,
yeah,
because you're an underdog right off the get. So you're just like, oh, I just want one. Just give me one. I've
yeah.
done that before too, where shooting against compound guys, like, just give me one win. Give me one, and that's a great night if you can grab an end or a win from somebody shooting a wheelie bow.
For sure,
So,
for sure.
that's this should be like, for people who listen to this or plan to go to the classic or plan to train, pay attention to the freaking model that this guy's talking about, because that's what's going to get you. If you walk in the door the first time and you want to be successful, like, if that's your goal, pay very close attention, because this is the yellow brick road to getting to that that place in this tournament. But so let's talk, before we dive into, I can't talk right now, before we dive into, like, what was going on the stage, and going through the match, or waiting to go up, and the match and stuff. I want to talk about your shot, because you're primarily self-taught, with exception of online
You do.
stuff, a little bit of Jake,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of us, a little bit of whoever, the push stuff. I'm sure you can't, there's a standard of everybody you watch.
Sure.
Just talk about, like, what is your shot if you had to describe it in words, and this could be a loaded question, I apologize in advance. What do you do? How are you shooting your shot? Like, we know where your anchor is, but is there certain things that you do? We know your alignment's good. Trust me, I've looked. I've looked at the video. You know, I even put the slow motion video of this guy. It's up on our YouTube page. Go look at it.
Yeah.
But like talk about like what's happening as you're coming into anchor and until that shot finishes. What are the things that you're trying to do? What are you thinking? What are are you shooting a triggered shot? Are you shooting a triggerless shot? What are you doing?
So I'm not shooting a triggered shot, but so basically, I just set my crawl.
Mm-hmm.
I set my shoulder and my grip all at one time.
Good.
And I'm trying,
Okay.
I don't know how to explain this very well, but I do that. And then I come up and I try to draw pretty even, like in plane, I guess, or together,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to draw no higher than what my anchor is. Try to
Okay.
draw directly to my anchor. And so anyway, I draw above the target, I come down and I bump the bottom of the gold, and I just run my string blur, and I use it. Right now it's on the left side of my riser, which is super weird because it's almost in the way. But I just draw back and aim, and I wiggle my head a little bit sometimes to get my nose right.
Yeah.
Just height wise, but I don't shoot a trigger shot, but I do my in my back. I just kind of, I don't know. I just kind of expand. I know that's like
Sure.
a weird thing now, but
No,
but I
not at all.
do that at the same forward, and I push forward with my hand, not my shoulder or my elbow. I push with my hand, and it really steadies my aim up somehow or another, and my shot just breaks. I mean, I don't have anything triggering it,
Good.
and I don't really know how to explain that very well because I've tried to a guy that I shoot with quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't know how to explain it. But it's really just tension. I
Yeah.
mean, if I were to say anything, so just some increased tension in my back and in my bow hand.
Yeah.
So, and I really got the bow arm thing. So that's one thing I've tried to do really well since day one, and I've got that from watching Grayson. His bow arm is solid.
There's an incredible resemblance there. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
but yeah, go ahead.
So I got it from watching him, Demmer, the guy that I shoot with at our club. His name is Guy Haslam. He had a really solid bow arm with a long bow, which is kind of nobody really has, because it's such a light thing. But so anyway, that's what I really built everything off of was my bow arm, really. And and honestly, so Jake had super good videos on that. Like you can mess up a lot on your release and on your back end, your string side,
Yep.
and that will cover up a lot. And I feel like it covers up a ton.
The bow
for
arm
me.
will cover up a
Yeah,
funky
for
release.
sure.
Yes. Yeah. If you can learn to hit the target behind the point of the arrow, then the only job you really need to do is put the point of the arrow in the middle. That's where target panic comes into play. Or the people who struggle to get the point to the middle
Yeah,
and are unable to hold past the point getting there. It sounds like you have a theory or a process very similar to both John and Grayson, and it's just you put it there, but you have to hit those, I call them performance points for lack of a better word, but like whether it's the feeling in your back and the hand, like you have to hit both of those before you'll even think about letting go. And you don't really think about letting go. It just happens on its own. Is that kind of
yeah,
what you're saying?
yep,
Yeah. And that Mike Fisher shoots a similar lower anchor, skinny little arrows. But he, and he's way out on his fingers. Again, proof that you can make anything work if you do it the same way multiple times and you train it. But he just puts it in the middle and he doesn't try to hold it still.
Well, and I don't hard aim either, and I
Yeah.
think that's me and Ryan Davis talk about that quite a bit because he's a very good aimer.
Yeah.
But it's gotten him in trouble a little bit now.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just from ASA because he would call upper 12s and hit them when he would run a shot, but then I seen him, screw one up badly because of that. But so I don't really aim hard. I just kind of set it there and I just kind of move on,
Yep.
and
It's good.
and really I bought the, when I started all this, that Rod Jenkins thing. And I took a little bit from that. I didn't use a whole lot of it, but I definitely took some away from it for sure. And I even bought, even though I've not had the issue, the Joel Turner stuff. And what I gained out of that was the blueprint thing, that he runs through, is to have a process. So I have a hard process, but it's very simple, which I got from Rod, draw back and aim. And I mean, and I just kind of moved on from the aim and just increased tension, and it goes, so it's super simple. Like, I don't have 12 steps to what I'm doing. I know a lot of guys, seems like anyway, have so much going on in their shot that it's like you can't keep track, or I've heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, I think hold on a second, buddy. I'm live on Instagram
No, you're
right
good.
now. I think that it's important to know the steps of your entire shot. I think that is imperative, actually, because then you don't know what to fix when things don't go right.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, the goal is, hey, let's keep it simple. Like don't complicate things. The more junk you do coming in anchor, the more junk you do throughout, the more you have to repeat. And let's just face it, that's probably not the best. It'll work when you're shooting at home or in your basement or in your backyard. We're all backyard champions,
Sure.
But when it comes down to shooting a giant buck or shooting in a head-to-head, the less we have to repeat, the better off we are,
Yeah, for sure.
I guess that's a general rule of thumb. That's my philosophy as a coach, but everybody has their own way. Everybody has had their own success. And I'm probably one of the few people who will say, I don't, there's no cookie cutter way of shooting perfect archery. Everyone can do it. I say it way too much and I feel like a broken record, but it's, you found a way, man. You found a way. And I think it's a testament also to the availability of information that's out there, to see a guy like you who's primarily 3D, self-taught for the most part, to be able to put it all together and learn from it. I think it's amazing. And
there's a ton of info out there. I mean, but with that being said too, is I hear people saying, well, there's a lot of bad info. Well, there's just info. If you just look at it as there's just info out there, and you can pick and choose whichever part of it you want, try it. It's no penalty to go home and try it, and shoot it for a couple days, and see how it feels or see how you like it. And then if it feels pretty good, score it. If it and if it just does terribly, then move on. And that's what I've done. I've changed a million things in the past year. I've changed a ton of different things. So I played with rolling my shoulder or rolling it in and rolling it out, and all kinds of stuff. And it was just, but I shoot what's comfortable too. So although it may not be right the way my shoulder comes up, technically, I have to do that to feel comfortable, and I can do that at any point in time. So it's just maintainable for me. So, because when you get nervous and things, and I noticed that from just a little shoot we had, a year ago, you go back to like home, whatever was comfortable, even if you'd worked on something for a long time, you can definitely train into that, I think. But you kind of just revert back to what was comfortable, and then you start getting all these crazy things happening, and I mean, I had that happen. So I wanted something that was comfortable and just easy,
It looks that way. No question about it. It 100% looks like you look comfortable at full draw, and that's a crucial point. And I think where there's a disconnect with some like Olympic recurve coaches, or you see they always talk about like the shoulders back and down and the and the alignment and the coiling and all that extra stuff. And I think the disconnect for people that shoot Olympic recurve is that we are not shooting the same poundage that system is designed for. And not even, and in my opinion, that Jake is heavy NTS. with Barebow, our anchor is different. We're not under the chin, we're on the side.
Yep.
It changes the alignment, it changes the distance that we technically would have to coil to get the elbow around the backside of the arrow. Everything's different. And that's where like people who are Olympic recurve coaches, they don't understand the concept because a lot of them don't shoot barebow. And you have to understand, like, we're shooting lighter weight, we can get away with the deeper hook. We're shooting lighter weight, we can get away with maybe not perfect alignment, you know. Look at how many people we see that shoot forward anchors, you know, like Dillinger, Fisher, Melnick, Matt, Zernzak, you know. And I mean, I know guys that shoot, they're much more forward here as opposed to here or even down here. Lower anchor oftentimes ends up being a further back, getting in closer to alignment. But it's proof that there's no set way to make it work. It's the one that's a set thing is the amount of work that you put in.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and if it's not working, you gotta go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, you gotta definitely be willing to change for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you do the same thing over and over, and you're not being very efficient with it or very good with it, it's just not going to work. You know, I mean, it's like anything else. You know, if you keep shooting a basketball a weird way, it's just not going to work if the other way is just going in.
It could work. You shoot a basketball away whatever way you want. It could work, but there's a good chance that your learning curve and Steph Curry's learning curve are going to be two different ones. That's for sure. No, that's great stuff, man. So let's talk about the top 8. Let's talk about your experience and the things that kind of went down from the moment you walked back into the practice bales there. Like, what were you feeling? Who was in your box? What was going on in your brain?
So yeah, when we got in there, I had Colby Cox in my box, and I've shot some ASA with him, and he's a really, really good shot. Good example of shooting awesome aimer. For whatever reason, something happens to him in a tournament. I'm not sure what. In an indoor tournament. He's a sniper on a 3D range, for sure.
He's a good dude.
Yeah. So, at that point, I wasn't really intimidated by anything because I was just tickled to be there, Mm-hmm. But as I watch Eric, I don't know his last name, Johnson.
It looks like Johnson. I think it's pronounced Johnson.
Okay. But anyway. I watched him put so many arrows in a 10, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, there's no way. I was like, oh well, it doesn't matter. And then Dimmer shot in there, and I was like, well, I mean, I'll just do the best I can. That's just all I can do. It'll be fun either way. So I didn't realize what was going to come of that. And nobody's went out yet on the men's. And then whenever I forgot that other guy, Winker, John.
Oh, John, yeah.
Okay, whenever him and Mike went out, I could hear this huge roar. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know that I can do it. And I literally was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, I think I'm just going to quit. I might throw up. This is bad.
Oh, and I'm so glad you didn't.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, well, I'm already here. So I went and shot warm up, next to them, and I just didn't shoot very well. I mean, I kind of kept them, some of them were 9s, and then I had a couple 8s for sure, and I saw like a 6, and I was like, whatever. I was like, I'm here, so I can't lose anything worse than 4th place right now anyway, so, and everybody else seemed to be shooting really well. And as I went over there and watched, and so they started, Mike got eliminated, Winker got eliminated by Tim, and it was just and I went in against Tim, and I'd seen him practice too, and I knew he was a really good shot, and that was anybody's game there for sure. But when I won, all I could think about was was Eric coming out there, and I was like, God, he's going to put on a clinic because his wife just murdered it.
Yeah,
that was awesome to watch. And I didn't even know really what she shot like, but I heard her score whenever they was talking over the microphone, and I mean, it's impressive. She's a very, very good shot. So all I could think of was he was going to do that, and he shot a 9 to begin with, and for whatever reason, I just thought, well, I've got a chance. I mean, something's off because he should be throwing out X's because he was in there. You know what I mean? And he shot a 9, and then I think he shot all 9s. And so, anyway, you know what? I just kind of forgot about it and shot. And it's going to fall where it falls. It's anybody's game at this point, is what I kind of thought. But I wasn't really expecting to end up winning that at all. So after that, of course, Rocky comes out of the back over there with his hood up, and I really wasn't sure what to think at all.
That's funny. That's so funny.
Yeah. And man, I knew that was going to be a good round because I felt pretty good, and I'd shot both sides already. And when the miss came, I didn't even know that he missed. Actually, I had no idea because I don't even remember that. And Colby was behind me, and he was such a good coach, by the way. I could hear him over the whole thing, just talking to me. And anyway, after he missed, I remember, Colby said, "Hey, this is all yours. Just shoot. And so anyway, I was like, all right. Well, I thought he just shot like a 6 or something. I seriously just didn't look.
You don't really have time to look. You don't really have to.
Yeah, you don't, especially because it takes me so long to make my 9-inch crawl, and get everything in line to do that. And you know what? I just
wait, hold on. Yet another benefit of not having a big crawl. All right, go ahead.
For sure. Yeah. So
you made it work. You proved it.
Yeah, I made it work. It took a minute. But yeah, so I forgot where I was at.
We're just Demmer shooting, and you didn't know he missed.
Okay, yeah. And I knew something was off because what Colby said. And anyway, so man, it just gave me a little bit more drive, for him talking to me behind me. And I just shot stronger, and that was my best in through the whole thing, and then I kind of fell apart there on the last one because I kind of knew the outcome at that point if I just kept it close. I'd seen the math, and still couldn't believe it at that point. And I don't know, it was a cool experience for sure, and honestly, you don't ever want to see anybody miss a target at all or have some slip up or anything like that.
Yeah.
But even when we got done, I was like, man, I told Colby, I was like, it sucks. I don't ever want to beat anybody on a bad day. I want to beat somebody on their good day. But Colby said, well, if he would have shot an 11, I think y'all would have tied. And I was like, well,
it is Barebow.
I mean, it doesn't really make me feel any better, but it's still one of those
things.
Man,
listen, it's the hardest discipline for a reason amongst the competitive world outside of longbow, horsebow, all that stuff, right? But like the major categories that are competing, it's the toughest one for a reason. And when I think and I don't want to speak for John, but the refreshing thing about John's willingness and openness about missing is that it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Could have been you. It could have been you. It could have been Eric Janssen. It could have been anyone. And it's not Barebow's a little bit different, whereas compound, it's the person who hits the 11 every single time, essentially, or damn near close, is the one that's going to win. In Barebow, it's the one that just makes the strongest, the most amount of strong shots. You don't necessarily have to hit the middle. You could, you stepped up there and shot 27 after 27 after 27 after 27. There's a good chance you're going to win that match.
Yeah.
So, in some ways, no, the 9 is sort of the equivalent of maybe the compound 10. I'll say 10, but probably 11 or somewhere in there, 11 and a half or whatever, and that's the difference, because for us, so much has to go right for that arrow to go in the middle. And when you get close to the middle in those situations and you see a sharp, that the gap is getting smaller and smaller, but you see those scores drop a little bit on the stage, a little bit. There's ends where you wouldn't even know. Tim Johnson had 3 matches that were like damn near as good as they were out on the floor. I think he just ran, when talking to Tim, he kind of ran a little bit of ran out of steam. You know, it takes a lot out of you. Lights, talking, people interviewing you, and you gotta keep your composure, and there's cameras floating by on like the right stage. There's cameras floating by, and it's just there's a lot of moving parts to it. But is there anything now that you've been able to reflect on it? You shot Vegas, which where did you finish in Vegas? Third? Did you finish third?
Yep. And I shot really. If you want to touch on that real quick, we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I shot good at Vegas. On Friday, I shot good. I was super happy. Saturday, I started on bottom. I shot really good. I think I shot a 139 on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then when we switched, I have no idea what happened. I just shot, I think, as many in the red as I did in the gold.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. And I think I shot a 65. Not the worst score, right? But I'm spoiled to shooting a high 70s or low 80s round, but the pressure there was ridiculous for me because it was such a weird thing. And that's what I wanted to do it for. That's why it was a last minute deal for me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see what I just come off of last week.
Sure.
I feel like I would have been expected to do really, really well. And I still feel like it did really well. And the last day I shot an 80, and which I'm super happy with, but at the end of the day, either one of them 2 guys in front of me shot just a little more consistent, Matt shot, I think Matt beat me by 2 or something like that. He was, solid. And then Jeremiah, just super consistent, man. I think he shot like a 75, 75 and a 74 or something, or whatever it was. I'm not sure, but he's a shooter for sure. He's a very, very good shooter.
Listen, I think you were in the practice range. We were in the diamond practice range at Lancaster, and I was standing there. I was shooting with, I think Demmer was behind me, Fisher was in front of me, Tim Johnson was somewhere, and Ryan Davis. And I see Jeremiah, and I see this kid with a backwards hat and his hair like, and I'm watching this kid shoot, and I think I said it to Ryan. I was like that kid can shoot. I'm watching, like he's so slamming fast. Them skinny arrows inside that little 10 ring down there. I was like, and his form is consistent, and I'm watching him. I was like, so like I see that stuff. I pay attention to that stuff all the time because that's the coach for me. I cannot look away from a good shooter. I watch somebody shoot and I'm like, damn, that's pretty. Like I enjoy, because I have such respect for somebody who's put that much work in. I know how hard it is. And I'm like, and I watch this kid, I'm like, that kid's going to be dangerous. I don't know where he was. I saw him shooting. I saw him shooting just the qualification round too. So like I was constantly watching him and then figure out like, what number is he on, and trying to figure out what his name was. I'm looking at my binos, trying to get name tags and stuff. And, so it's not a surprise to see him go out there after getting a taste of success at Lancaster and be like, okay, I just need a little bit more, and it's also not a surprise for you to hear that you felt that like that second day, like something just wasn't right. I say this all the time. It's easy. I'm not going to say you were an underdog, but it's easy to come in with no pressure, no expectations, and get to the top of a tournament like that. The hard part is staying there, which is where my admiration for John comes, and Jason and John Dillinger and for Mike Fisher to come there 2 out of 3 times and podium and damn near podium a third time, even though he was super, super sick. Not everybody knows that he was extremely sick.
Yeah, he was.
And
no, that's what I wanted to go to Vegas to kind of try to keep, to try to keep there. But no, you're exactly right. I've talked to, Davis about that quite a bit, because I know that he's dealt with that, and
I talked to Ryan about that too.
Yeah. And he told me, I told him before I went to Vegas, I was like, man, you think I should go? He's like, for sure. If you can do it, do it. You know, he said, you can just see what happens, you know? And man, I got there and it was like, nobody cares either, you know, but I put all the pressure on myself. It was so
Yep,
dumb.
100%
And I
true.
was like, you know, and I didn't tell you this earlier, but this happened at Vegas every shot. And this happened up on the stage every shot. Every time I would set my arrow on my rest, I could hear it tinking all the way up until I drew back and was at full draw. It was tinking the whole time off of my plunger. It was, I was shaking. You couldn't really see it, but in the video,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, in the video, you can see my tab, the back end of my tab, while I'm just standing there and it's just wobbling. You know, it was a weird thing, you know, because it wasn't really, it was a weird pressure there, but I definitely felt like I should have, or I was, you know, expected to perform at Vegas. You know what I mean? When nobody cared,
No,
you
nobody
know, but
cared. Nobody
nobody
cared.
cares.
We can say that
But
until we're blue in the face, but not everybody
yeah,
listens. Yeah,
yeah.
nobody cares. It's not, you care more than anybody else, and
Oh yeah.
it bites all of us, not all of us. It still gets me a little bit every now and again. But you know, it's a learning curve.
Oh yeah. You just
And
got to accept it too. You're definitely not gonna win them all. Nobody can, you know.
yeah,
But you know, you always want to do well, and I feel like it's still done really well. You know, I shot solid scores to me. You know, I had one that slip up in the middle, and it happens. You know, so it's definitely something I understood going into both of those tournaments. Though, you know, it's you're liable to have one pretty good screw up. You know, and it could cost you pretty much everything. But at the end of the day, too, I just like shooting, and it's just still super. It's fairly new, and it's just really fun still.
yeah,
That it doesn't really matter. I would go. I would drive. I mean, I drive 12 hours to shoot 40 arrows at a fake animal. You know, I mean, because it's just what we have around here.
right.
But
Yeah,
you know, it's still super fun for me to just shoot. So,
it's good.
and I've shot terribly at those tournaments too. You know, and I've shot really good too. So I knew that it was going to translate into indoor too. That
Yeah,
like the highs and lows. Sometimes you'll have, really great days and sometimes you won't. You
yeah,
know, definitely things change.
yeah.
You stretched more one day, you got a little longer draw one day. You know, I've measured that like weeks at a time to try and check. And I don't measure it the right way. I just measure it with my wife and a Sharpie and a measuring tape, but I've measured a ton of different days where my draw length was a quarter inch different,
Yeah.
and it matters a lot. So adjusting all that it was pretty huge. And on my tab, I don't know if you've seen my tab at all,
No, I
but I
didn't.
shoot a sniper tab that
No,
I
no
guess
idea.
nobody else in the world shoots. There's like little metal staples on it,
Oh,
and
really?
I've got a ton of them super close. So I've got 8 of them, and I normally shoot at like 4, you know. And when I got on the stage, I actually ended up having to come down the string even more by like 3 marks, which would be equivalent to like a full big mark on a Yoast
Okay.
tab,
Yeah, yeah.
because I got more comfortable as time went on, you
Sure.
know. So I ended up being a little more stretched out, I guess, or something, But I don't know. The adjustment thing is huge.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's good you were able to learn that stuff in transition on the stage. Yeah, you can't be afraid to make adjustments. I watched John Dillinger win the classic that way. He was constantly, I don't know if he was hitting left or right, looked back at Demmer, and Demmer's like, gave him a
Yeah.
couple clips, bang, 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 bang down the middle, super consistent, So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you not only did you win the classic, but you learned a ton for experience in these last 2 big tournaments.
For
So
sure.
yeah,
Huge.
that's shortens the learning curve big time, my friend. Really, really
Yeah.
shortens it. So real quick, let's run through your equipment, everything you're using. And just give everybody a description as best you can of like how you're running your equipment, what it is, stuff like that.
Okay, so it's WF-25 light,
Mm-hmm.
Uka limbs, the SX50s, and they're 34-pound limbs. they scaled a little different on that bow. I'm not really sure why, but they did. And let's see, I've got an OCD string. So I get my strings from an AAE. I think it's a Free Flight Elite is the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I just changed that today from it sucking the spring in or the arm in to leaving it out.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, it works better because Mike Fisher told me I was an idiot for doing that. But
shut up, Mike.
And I had an AAE Gold plunger, but in Vegas my spring broke, and my plunger was just flopping around there. So I bought a Whiffler plunger and had to do that Alex fella had to do some weird stuff to it to make it lighter, put different magnets in it.
Okay.
And I couldn't get it light enough. And so that's what I'm shooting now. And I just started that Tuesday morning was my first day back, and I put that new plunger on, but I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Black
and the
Eagle,
sniper tab.
The sniper tab, Black Eagle PS23s, RAS plunger. Yeah, I guess that is about it. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll probably switch. Yeah, I'm probably going to switch to those VTACs, just to play with those for a little while. Just for whatever reason, mine bear shaft off the bail weak, and I don't know if that's, Davis has told me it's false, and 100 different deals, but I can't get a bear shaft to fly. So I don't know why, but if I bear shaft those, it's off. It's a foot and a half right at 20 yards, and even worse the further I go.
What spine is it?
500.
500 spine, 70 grain point, 32 inches long, right? There's 32-inch bear shaft, I think.
Yep.
30, you said what's your draw length? 28?
About 30.
So you're about 30 with 34-pound limbs?
Yeah, but on my scale, which this is a scale from probably 2003 for fish, so it's not accurate, I'm sure, but it's like 37.5 pounds.
Yeah, you should be higher than that. At 30 inches.
The weight?
Oh, wait, no, 4 pounds. So you're about 38.
I got it turned out
pounds.
pretty far, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, ballpark 38 pounds, 37, 38 pounds. And you can't get a bear shaft. Where's your center shot at?
Right now I'm sitting dead center. I moved my center shot out a little bit to the left.
Okay.
And then I've played with it into the right, and I've done extremes both ways. And I've done it all with a super stiff plunger, and then backed it off, and I went through that whole thing, and I've never. If I got a bear shaft to hit, my fletch shafts were horrible. I mean, they were a mile left. Yeah. I don't know. It's just a weird. I've
seen that before too. It's not the end of the world. It's funny we're having this discussion because there was a post about tuning and stuff on the Barebow group today, and that dude, like if you group tune and your freaking arrows are hammering down the middle and it's relatively forgiving, don't obsess over bear shaft. Like you're kind of like, so like right here is proof of that. You don't have the perfect bear shaft on your indoor setup. It's not the end of the world. You certainly shoot consistent enough to win the classic without it. And so like people don't need to obsess over that. Worry more about hitting the damn middle of the target, because that's what fletchings are for. 4 or 5 inch feathers or whatever you put on there, they're gonna make a big difference. 18 meters, 20 yards, yeah, you can get away with that. Maybe 50 meters, you should do a little bit more work, but there's and field especially too. But yeah, proof in the pudding right there. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Well, everybody's asked me about the tuning thing, and I'm just at 20 yards, I'm 100% convinced that it doesn't matter. You can throw, whatever works, whether it's tuned or not. I mean, yeah, like you said, just whatever's hitting the middle, because mine are obviously not tuned at all. But my crawl, I think, is the trade-off, because when I shot a high anchor and a bump in the knock, I could get a lot of things to tune. Yeah. And I have the hardest time. I've played with killer, all of it. I just can't. Nothing works so far.
Not the end of the world. Like I said,
Yeah.
we talked about it in the beginning. You gotta do what works for you. Period. And until that doesn't work anymore, or until you need to start making changes, it is what it is. Where can people follow you or see what your updates, or, I know you're on Instagram. I don't know if that's public or not. Can people look you up on Instagram and
Yeah, that's the only thing that I've got.
you know what your handle is? I think it's Matt Hud, or I'm not sure, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's Matt Hudson, because it
Yeah,
wouldn't let me finish my
hey, that
wouldn't let
works.
me finish my name on there. Yeah.
That works. Perfect. I'm gonna look. I don't think I saw. If you guys have any questions, I think we're kind of close to wrapping up this episode of the podcast. I'm gonna quick look back through, see if there's any questions. Buck Terry, I ordered a couple of Kubota tractor shirts. I have no doubt my shooting will improve. It's funny stuff. We got some viewers from Malaysia.
Man, I was going to tell you this real quick too. So
Go ahead.
I bought a plane ticket to go to Vegas, and I called Colby Cox, and I was like, "Man, do you have anybody rooming with you?" And he was like, "Yeah, I've already got somebody." I was like, "All right." So I already had the plane ticket booked, and I didn't have a place to stay, and there was no rooms available anywhere. So he ended up calling up. I ended up staying. Long story short, I ended up staying with some random people I never met, and I slept in a cot in their front room in one of the hotels next to the South Point, I guess, where they do the shoot. So
No
it was
way.
it was a super. And they were awesome, but turns out the guy that I stayed with owned a John Deere dealership. He's the one who gave me the John Deere hat. Yeah,
That is so funny.
I tried to pay him for it, and he was like, "No, man." He's like, "I just want you to do something else for me." And we was about to walk in his room, and it was either going to get super weird, or I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And
oh, it's funny.
yeah, so then he handed me a John Deere hat, and it was he was a pretty cool dude for sure.
How did you meet them? That's so random and a little bit sketchy, because I don't know if I would do that. So how did you meet them? How did that come up?
It was Colby. Colby was like, "Man, I know this guy. He'll probably let you stay with him."
Oh, that's.
I was like, okay. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I mean, he referred, but it was still weird, the whole process of doing that, And I was gonna rent a car and just sleep in it and just go try to shower at a truck stop or something.
Yeah,
but
Planet Fitness or something.
Yeah, but it worked out. The cot was pretty terrible though. It wasn't great, but it was sleep. So
yeah, absolutely, dude. That's so funny. Oh my gosh, talk about stories, man. It's an epic year for you, for sure. It's an epic year for you. And that was your wife. Did I one child or two? I don't remember.
Yep, just one.
One.
Yep.
Were there at the Classic. I saw they did not go to Vegas with you, obviously. Then probably wanted to.
No, they did not want to go.
No, they had enough traveling.
That was our first plane ride was to Lancaster.
Oh, okay.
So the first time we'd ever been in a plane, and it was enough for her. Like, she liked it, but it was it's just I like driving, I guess, because I have a way around. And the only car we could rent was a Camaro, like I don't know what it was, a tiny car, couldn't fit any of our luggage in it, and it was a weird couple weeks for sure. But yeah, she was tired for sure.
Well, does she shoot or no?
No, not really. I mean, she used to shoot a little bit, but not anymore.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. Just didn't know if it's something with the family or not. That could change. You just watch. That could change. My mom used to call herself an archery widow when I was younger, because my dad and I would be going to, Virginia to Nationals or Atlantic City for the Archery Classic. Before the Lancaster Archery Classic, there was a tournament called the Atlantic City Archery Classic, and it was in the Atlantic City Convention Center. So it was much like the atmosphere of the Classic, but it was a different style of tournament, so we would travel all over the country going to these tournaments. And so my wife is the same. Thank you, honey. Love you. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to do this stuff and, and
Yeah.
be in these tournaments and whatnot. So shout out to all the ladies who, and the men, I guess, in some cases, who allow us crazy ass archers to travel the country and do all this stuff. So,
She was just tickled I won enough money to cover the trip.
And then some.
Because the ASAs, you're definitely in the hole.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The winnings don't cover
you make $250 maybe, But
yeah,
but you know what? They're fun and it's growing.
I need to get on Josh about that and see what we can do. We did right when Josh was becoming owner of ASA or jumping in that bandwagon. I'm not sure what the terms are there with him. He was like, we got to talk about how we can promote ASA and get more barebow shooters because they just know how to have fun. We want to, I was like, and it just never came through because Cam keeps him so busy too. That guy's got his hands full. I mean, between running Cam and ASA, like, tons of respect for the impact that he's having on the sport right now. But I'll have to talk to him about that and see if we can't, find it. It's a sponsorship thing. Part of it too, is we need to have more companies that are willing to dive into the side of things. We have less options of sponsors, let's face it.
So for sure.
We can pull some bigger stuff. It would be nice. But all right, man. Well, I mean, I'm good. There's not really any questions, just like a ton of really positive comments. If you want to scroll through them, I mean, there's nothing direct toward you, just funny stuff. And wait, hold on, let me see. Vikram, a friend of ours, he did post a comment. He said, joining in a bit late, but have you shot any other discipline besides barebow? You said you shot some longbow and barebow. That's pretty much primarily it, right?
Yeah, just the wood bow stuff.
He's just checking to make sure that you're not going to switch to Olympic recurve because that's what he shoots and he doesn't want. He doesn't want to compete against you.
No plans as it sits.
No, none of those Olympic recurve guys want to compete against the barebow guy. Many of them have switched to barebow. They find out the hard way.
Yeah.
Not all.
I had a ton of compound guys, actually at Vegas that told me they're turning in their bows at the end of that shoot, and they're buying bare bows. Good. Just because they were just ready for a change, I guess, to do something different or whatever. But
you got to admit that the $8,000 purse, the classic, is enticing.
I don't know what the compound win is or whatever.
The men's open and bow hunter don't touch it.
Really?
Might be $3,000.
Okay.
That's a guess. I don't really know. 3,000 to 5,000 is my guess. So
totally backwards to Vegas.
When you go to, right. So you go to Lancaster and you see Olympic recurve, open pro, and barebow, and I think it's like 8,000 across the board, something like that between the two. All of them are in the same area. Now compound has a heck of a lot more contingency, but what's the likelihood? And that's probably what they're looking at. I was like, well, what's the likelihood of, you have to get through all the pros that shoot full time, and whereas barebow, they probably think, oh, better chances there. Then
for sure,
some of them will find out the hard way. Some of them will be fine. Brian Way is a prime example of that. That guy could shoot a freaking 2x4 with a piece of yarn for a string.
Yeah,
still hit a 270 indoor round. But he was a compound guy. And there's some benefits.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he shot a little bit of everything, I think, but I know he definitely dove hard in the compound for a minute. And there's some benefit. I over the years, like my opinions on the benefits and the takeaways from the other disciplines, I think compound in some ways has a benefit to barebow, and that's because you learn. Have you ever shot a compound at all?
Yeah.
So did you ever shoot a scope or anything like that? Even if you're shooting bow hunter setup with fixed pins or movable pin, whatever, or scope, when you're at full draw pulling into that back wall and you're able to just let that pin float in the middle, that's essentially what barebow should be. So there's actually some benefit, but getting the mechanics of the release and tension on the fingers and all that stuff is, is a little bit of a wonky carryover. But if you can figure that part out, like technically you're aiming the same way you're aiming a compound. Lower poundage. So, it's kind of like the let off on a compound. You're just letting that thing float in the middle. You're just staying there, kind of in the mind managed part of your brain until that subconscious switch happens and boom, arrow's gone, But what happens is this thing gets in the way and, we make goofy decisions or we don't practice enough. So, but
and I've had those struggles a little bit, I've mentally, but the deeper hook thing solved some of that for me for now, but I try not to talk about it because I don't want to jinx myself. I know that's not a thing, but
it's a thing.
Is it?
Sorry about that. No, it's a thing. I mean, we see lots of people who have success. You have your mental approach, I think you'll be fine. Excuse me again. But I think that, it's the expectation thing is what is kind of why we recorded that podcast. And I did a coffee talk about expectation being a score killer where, it depends on how you handle this moving forward. You are now a champion. No matter how you look at it, you are that. Does that put a bullet on your back, a target on your back? Absolutely. There's no question. But how you handle this moving forward, and you have to understand, in my opinion, from putting my coaching hat on, your approach moving forward will dictate what your results are going to be. Are you going to be able to put in the time and effort that you put in to get ready for this event and what you did all last year for ASA or not? If you're not, you have to realize, okay, I might not be as sharp as I was, but I'm still going to go in and shoot my best shot. And the cards land where they land. If I really, really want it, I'm going to go get it. You know what you have to do. You've gone through that once already. The hard part is realizing, well, if I'm up here and not like nobody, in my opinion, like in the hierarchy of barebow competitors, and I always talk about John being up here, but nobody has put in the volume of hours and arrows and work that he has for him to be as consistent as he is. And getting there and staying there consistently year after year after year. We see a lot of people come and go. My hat's in that ring. People come and go, up and down, up and down. It depends on what you're putting into it. So you just, in my opinion, you are there and you could easily stay there. It's just whether or not your life and your circumstances and your drive will keep you there. And if that's what you want. And it's perfectly okay if that doesn't happen because you have kids, things change. Sure. So that's where I think people go wrong. They assume, oh, I'm here, I'm going to stay here. And then the brain doesn't, the work ethic doesn't match the need or the drive to want to be where they're at. And then all of a sudden that changes and then it's a slippery slope or a roller.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. That's just like what I do for a living, sales. So, you got to stay sharp 100% of the time or you don't get paid.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what you do. Your sales for the Kubota dealer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Nice. With a John Deere hat.
Yeah, for sure. I do have it actually.
Don't put it on.
He made me take it home. Yeah. He made me take it home.
The least that Kubota could have done is bought your plane ticket to go to Vegas. I mean, come on, man.
I know.
Tell me that didn't travel up the corporate ladder a little bit. Somebody
it did. It 100% did. And they're actually, so me and my boss are friends also outside of just employee and boss, which is super cool. But yeah, he said on my way back, the text message that as soon as I got off the plane, he said, he said, we're working on it. Just give them time. He said, I sent the video to everybody. So, of the classic there. And anyway, when I got back, they're legitimately trying to work on it. So
listen,
I mean, I'm cool with it for sure.
That's what Barebow, archery in general, but imagine, there's a little bit of a pipe dream, everyone, so please don't get too excited. But imagine if Barebow was able to pull in like the first ever outside archery sponsor in the US. If it ended up being Barebow and it happened to be Kubota because you stood up there on the platform with a freaking Kubota t-shirt on. But like that's and make sure you explain to your boss, if you need help with this, let me know. But make sure you explain to your boss, like the Barebow video is going to be seen. Your mug is going to be seen more than any other discipline and any other archer, including all the pros, on that YouTube channel than anybody else in that tournament.
Yeah.
There's hands down, there's no question. And so like explain that to your boss and explain that up the line and say like, guys, this is actually a thing and we could benefit from this, because they absolutely will. It has monetary value for them to throw their hat in the ring and say, we want to throw sponsorship in there. And I know I have the contacts to make that happen, but yeah, good on you, man. Good on you. That's perfect. Talk about manifest destiny right there. You wearing that damn shirt.
I know.
Up there winning the classic. I love it. I hope something comes of it. So you guys heard it here first. Sponsored by Kubota. This guy, Matt Hudson.
We'll try.
Not technically. You're working on it. All right, man. Hey, I'm super happy for you. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I look forward to seeing your progress and just, you know, at future tournaments and getting into these other disciplines, getting outside your comfort zone a little bit. You're gonna have a good time. And as always, if you need anything, have any questions, John, myself, Elton, Grayson, you know, Grayson's he's pretty busy right now with the Fire Academy, but anybody else that's going on, you need any help, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Man. All right, everyone. I'm looking over here because my live feed screen and all the comments is on this side. If you guys have any questions for this lad, post them in the comments. This video will probably be up maybe till sometime tomorrow morning. And I'll delete it and put the edited version up on YouTube. So if you want to watch it back tonight and you want to ask questions, do it now. Otherwise, forever hold your peace. Otherwise, that's it. Instagram, I'm gonna be shutting you down too. Otherwise, Barebow Project out. See you, Matt. Thanks so much. Congratulations once again, dude. See ya. Have a good night.
Yeah, man. Thank you.